But I did feel that experience that, okay, I might die here. Like, this is real deal, and sometimes I reflect on it. So I was in Holsworthy, and then I got posted to Brisbane for a couple of years. Oh, there's a tradition in the military that if it rains on your graduation parade, you're going to war. And it pissed down on our graduation parade, right? And like pouring rain. I still remember the Governor General at the time, Sir William Dean, short older man. He came down to review the troops, and someone handed him an umbrella, and he went, no. And he walked in the rain past us all, but I remember we were thinking something's going to happen, and then of course it did. And Timor was what kicked off, you know. And I think the Australian government had actually, we didn't go into Timor until October 1999, 2 years sort of just after we graduated, but the government knew it was coming, and anyone who's sort of student of that knows there's a lot of things that we were doing before that point. I was supposed to go in the 99 wave, but we ended up getting pulled back as the situation developed. And so I then went in a later rotation. I went in 2002, and I was actually posted to Darwin at the time. And by this stage, I was a forward observer with the artillery. And the forward observer's job is to go to the front line, join the infantry and the armour, and identify the targets to call in the artillery on top of. Now, in East Timor, there was no role for that. Yeah. And by this stage, the conflict had moved to the border of East and West Timor, basically keeping out the former East Timorese militia who'd now moved to the West Timor, and they were in refugee camps and things like that. And they were no longer welcome in East Timor based on atrocities that had been committed and things like that. So our forward observation teams got re-rolled as civil military affairs. So there were four of us, two radio operators, myself and my assistant. And then when we got in country, we got assigned what we call a LEC, a locally employed civilian, who was an interpreter. And that rotation was the first rotation that the Australians took a company of Fijian soldiers under command. So we had 3 companies of Australians and 1 company of Fijians with the Ausbat 857 RAR battalion group. So my party was attached to the Fijians, and the CO gave them the quieter AO, which was back from the border and on the beach in a Ada bulletin, and any Timorese veterans would know Ada bulletin, and it was great. And we played touch footy on the beach, and we drank kava with the Fijians, and nothing happened for the first 3 months. And then I went on leave back to Australia, and when I landed back in Dili after my leave, my battery commander was waiting for me at Dili Airport with a Black Hawk helicopter, and he said, "Come here." He said, "That helicopter, you need to get on it. We're going right now." And otherwise I would have just gone in a truck, but no, they wanted to fly me back to the border. I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "There's been a bus ambushed just down the road from your FOB, your forward operating base. A bunch of people are dead. There's a militia group running around the Adabai forest, and you're the only Aussie who knows it." Because what had happened is we'd given that area to the Fijians. And what I suspect had happened is that the enemy militia were still infiltrating across the border, but in previous rotations they'd taken on the Australians and they got a whooping. In particular, they'd taken on, I think it was 6RAR, Ada Basalala, which was in our AO. You can look that up, and 6RAR gave them a good touch-up, and they never touched the Australians ever again. But yet there were contacts and things happening behind us. So my theory was that they were infiltrating through the Australian area and not trying anything because they knew that it wouldn't work out well for them. So when the Fijians got put under our command, my theory was that they thought that wasn't Australian AO anymore, so they'd try it on with the Fijians. Anyway, so I fly directly back to my FOB. The commanding officer's there, everyone's there. They're pouring over the battle map. There's little markers everywhere. CO says, "Damien, this is the situation, what do you think?" Because I knew that whole AO backwards, because as the civil military affairs guy, I had to go meet all the village chiefs and everyone, so I knew the whole place. And then he goes, "Right, I'm regrouping you to Battalion QRF, which is a Quick Reaction Force." And he goes, "We've got a cordon in place." And basically the entire battalion group had cordoned the Adabai forests which was bounded by the Nanura River, the coastline, and a short section, about maybe 4 kilometre section of land. And the idea was we were going to tighten the noose and we were going to find these guys. And so that's what then went to happen. So Timor for me was very exciting because I ended up then being my FO party, the 5 of us, CMA party, a section of infantry and a military police dog handler with a German Shepherd MWD, military working dog, which is track and attack. And that was our standard response. Was we had ripped all the seats out of the Black Hawks, we'd all load in. Whenever the enemy was sighted inside the cordon, we'd land on top of them. And that was our job. So I went from, a lot of people sort of think, oh, what did you do in Timor, mate? Civil military affairs. You drunk tea with the local chiefs and drunk car with the Fijians, which is what all I was hoping would happen. But ended up actually being at the very tip of the spear. It wasn't a fair fight. Like there was 8 of them and there was 1,000 of us. But at the tip of the spear, it was quite sort of heart in your throat stuff. Some ways I'm pleased, and other ways I'm disappointed that we only ever pushed them away, and so they would run from us, but they did run into the cordon, and interestingly enough, they ran into the Fijians. And the Fijians, I think we ended up capturing one, wounding another, and the rest got across the border. And then, anyway, we ended up finding out who they were, and that all got dealt with. So it was a very exciting deployment. It certainly made me realise my own mortality, and for those guys who have actually been in proper combat and actually gone to that, I didn't have to discharge my weapon. I have the greatest respect for those people who did do that and have been properly shot at and lost mates and things like that. I'm certainly not suggesting that, but I did feel that experience that, okay, I might die here. Like, this is real deal. And sometimes I reflect on it a lot about, did we do everything right? Did we? And I think every veteran probably goes through that, or they go back over. Did we take any unnecessary risk? Should we have done something? Should we have done more? So I sort of get that as a veteran. Sometimes I sit there and sort of ruminate over it all. Yeah, that was a little bit of excitement, I guess, for me, and certainly changed the way I thought about a lot of things. And I took my job a lot more seriously after that as well, particularly when I got back to Australia and training soldiers a lot harder on them, set a lot higher standards, knowing like what they could potentially be asked to do, not just run around Mount Bundy pretending to play war. Actually, and a lot of the guys I then did train under my command, so they went again to the more, like Iraq and Afghanistan, and yeah.